Just 2 weeks ago, we gave you 5 of the best upsets in NCAA men's basketball history.
Now, as UConn was crowned this year's champion, and only the second time the team has earned such a title when starting the season unranked, we give you the 5 greatest upsets. For 5, we go back more than a decade to the 2006 NCAA tournament, where the 11-seed George Mason Patriots shocked the nation with an improbable run to the Final Four. The mid-major program was set to face off against the six-seeded Michigan State Spartans, who were led by Coach Tom Izzo and at the time had made the Final Four in 4 of the last 7 years. George Mason had yet to win an NCAA tournament game, so when the team shot nearly 60% from the field and upset the Spartans by 10 points, America paid attention. The Patriots faced an even taller task in the round of 32 against North Carolina, the defending national champions and 3 seed in that year's tournament. George Mason didn't blink and took advantage of an experienced Tar Heels team with a 65-60 win that would send them to the Sweet 16, where they would pull off another upset, defeating Wichita State 63-55 and setting up a historic Elite 8 matchup against the number 1 seed UConn Huskies. George Mason would leave nothing on the court, with every starter scoring in the double digits to an 86-84 win and an incredible overtime finish, stunning the nation and becoming the first ever mid-major program to make it to the Final Four. The team would fall to Florida in their semifinal matchup, but it would do nothing to take away from one of the best Cinderella stories in tournament history.
For the 4th spot on this list, we go all the way back to 1983, where a legendary coach would lead a number 6 seed all the way to a national title in one of the most inspirational and astounding Cinderella stories of all time. Jim Valvano arrived in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1980, inheriting an underperforming NC State team playing in a loaded ACC. Through a couple years of recruiting with his iconic charisma, Jimmy V entered 1983 with a solid roster featuring future NBA players Thurl Bailey and Lorenzo Charles. Competing with the likes of Michael Jordan and Ralph Sampson in the ACC, the Wolfpack would have a good season, but not a great one. However, Jimmy V, as we know, never gives up. NC State would end up getting hot in the ACC tournament and winning it all, beating the mighty Virginia Cavaliers. Even with a conference victory in one of the toughest conferences in basketball, State would still only enter the tournament as a 6th seed. Yet powered by the undying belief their coach had in them, the Wolfpack would roll on. They started their tournament run with a 69-67 double OT thriller against Pepperdine, in which Dane Suttle, one of Pepperdine's greatest players ever, would brick a free throw that would have won the game. Next, the Pack would survive another 71-70 nail-biter against heavily favored UNLV. Jimmy V's squad would then finally get a semi-calm game as NC State would handle 10-seed Utah. Then came another intense matchup against UVA, where Derek Wittenberg's 24-point outburst secured yet another 1-point NC State victory at 63-62. And finally, in the Final Four, the underdog story continued as Jimmy and the guys beat one of Georgia's best teams ever. Even with all the magic surrounding this squad, most people thought the national championship would be the demise of NC State. As if NC State was Cinderella, Houston's 1982 roster was considered the evil stepmother. The Cougar squad, which was nicknamed Phi Slamma Jamma for their electrifying play style, was seen by most as the undisputed best team in the country. Featuring Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, they looked absolutely unstoppable. But as I said, with Jimmy V, anything is possible. The Storybrooke season would ultimately have a fairy tale ending, as the Wolfpack would best the Cougars by 2 points and become national champions. This remarkable run not only cemented the Wolfpack as one of the greatest Cinderella stories ever, but also made Jimmy Valvano an all-time great.
Through the powers of America's favorite old lady, Loyola Chicago's historic run to the Final Four included some of the most exciting finishes in recent memory. In the round of 64, the Ramblers took down the 6th-seeded Miami at the buzzer as Dante Ingram knocked down a deep lefty jumper from the top of the key as time expired to win the game 64-62. The excitement would continue in the round of 32, where Clayton Cluster would use a screen to drive and pull up for a contested jumper that would rattle around the rim before falling in and giving the Ramblers a 63-62 win victory over 3-seed Tennessee. In the Sweet 16, Sister Jean's prayers would be answered again as Marquise Townes hit a 3-point dagger with under 10 seconds remaining to put Loyola Chicago up 4 and send the team into the Elite 8. After 3 straight nail-biters, the Ramblers took care of business against Kansas State with a dominant 16-point, 78-62 victory over the Wildcats. The team's legendary run would come to an end after a 12-point loss to Michigan in the Final Four, but both the Ramblers and the Sister Jean won over the hearts of America and cemented themselves in March Madness history.
At the number 2 spot, we take a look at the 16-seeded UMBC Retrievers, who entered that year's tournament as plus 1,300 underdogs against 1-seeded Virginia. a team that was 31-2 and held a dominant 17-1 conference record in the ACC. It was shocking enough that UMBC managed to end the first half tied at 21 with Virginia, as many expected the Cavaliers to take control in the second half. But led by Jairus Lyle's 28 points, UMBC outscored Virginia 53-33 in the second half to become the first 16 seed in the history of the tournament to knock off a 1 seed. Prior to this game, teams held an astonishing 0-135 record in games of the same nature. Not only that, but UMBC won the game by 20 points and became a muse for all future underdogs that would enter the NCAA tournament.
Finally, we can bring it all back to this year's tournament, as one of the greatest March miracles of all time actually just happened a few weeks ago. Fitting for the first year ever that at least one 3-seed or lower was in the Final Four, our crowning moment is a big reason why. 16th Street Farley Dickinson shouldn't even been in the big dance, as an NCAA regulation forced the Northeast Conference's real champion, Merrimack, to forfeit their first four tournament bid to the runner-up Knights. Up until this tournament, the team was having a mediocre season in one of the weaker conferences in the nation, going 21-16 in head coach Tobin Anderson's first season with the clipboard after serving years coaching D2. Their stadium holds a little over 1,800 people, and finally, the school doesn't even really have a logo. For all those reasons, partnered with the monster that is Zach Edey, FDU opened as a 23-point underdog to the number 1 seed Boilermakers in the first round of the tournament. Nobody is even talking about if they can win or not. However, with a stellar performance from junior Sean Moore, who had 19, as well as a horrible shooting day for Purdue, this is exactly what Farley Dickinson University accomplished. Watching this, I was absolutely shocked, and I still really am. Even though FDU would then lose to FAU in the next round, this is truly one of the greatest upsets in tournament history. It just goes to show you that anything can happen in March.